Let's get into this discussion now. Public Works Minister Sihle Zikalala is hosting a 3-day South African Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium, which kicked off today. The event comes as Parliament's Portfolio Committee heard that Police Minister Sihle has been working from home for 4 years, and this is due to the South African Police Service's headquarters, which has since been declared unsafe for human habitation. Joining me now is the Public Works Minister, Sihle Zikalala. Minister, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. Can I begin with the events that unfolded in Parliament over the last week, and it's got to do with that SAPS headquarters, which has not been in good working order since, I think, 2015, if memory serves. What is being done about that building, Minister, and why is it still within the fold of government buildings?
No, thanks and greetings to you and the viewers. The building of the SAPS headquarters was constructed, and there's been a number of issues about the standard of the buildings and the money that has been spent. So we are providing an alternative space to the minister and the department, but we have taken a view that we must institute a forensic investigation on what happened about telecom towers, so that we understand, we get into the details, and those who did wrong things must be held accountable. So we are working around the clock to ensure that we deal with the issue of telecom towers building.
How long ago was this internal investigation mounted or instituted, Minister? Because, as I say, this building dates back to 2015.
Well, when we got into the department about a year ago, I was briefed about this building. I visited the building, and I was told that everything is fine and functioning. We then requested that they take occupation, and in a process then, it was then said that the building cannot be occupied because of being risky. And then I have since then instituted this forensic, which I believe in a period of 3 to 4 months from now, we'll be getting the report. And we would want to ensure accountability. Those who abuse government funds must be held accountable.
There are those, though. The criticism is that, as we say, this is a long-standing matter, and therefore this exercise, this internal investigation, is merely a public saving face exercise. How do you respond to that kind of criticism?
Well, it is a long issue. It has dragged for many years, but I haven't been here for those years. I've been here for less than a year, and already I'm instituting the forensic. Already I've been in the building itself, and we are working hard to ensure that the building is properly renovated and it meets the standard. And that will take us not more than 2 years to ensure that the whole complex now is finalized. And therefore, we are working to ensure that the SAPS is housed properly and in a conducive place.
Do we know how much has been spent by your department for the upkeep of this building that's clearly not working?
Well, there is a particular figure which amounts to 900 million that have been spent on the development, which is the construction of the building itself and the precinct, because this is not one building. Few buildings that will be built in one precinct. So one of those towers, it's already done, it's completed, but it needs to be revamped to meet the standard. So we will say about 900 million have been spent, which for me it's a huge, huge amount, and that's why we have instituted this forensic.
It's a massive amount indeed, 900 million rand. And so you said earlier that the Minister of Police, and I would assume his colleagues as well, are being housed in a different building. Where is that? Because the reporting to Parliament is that he has been working from home for the past 4 years.
Yes, he has been working from home, but I have since taken up the matter and we are looking around various options in Pretoria, especially trying to source from government buildings that are available and in a good state so that they will then take occupation of that. That will be completed in about a month, and we think from there they will then work from that space.
Just a final question on this, Minister Zikalala. In the Sunday Times today, the landlord of that building is quoted as saying that your department is on a month-to-month contract when it would actually cost the government less. So where are things here? Does government own this building, or are you leasing it with the hope of one day taking ownership of it?
I'm not sure whether you're talking of the same building, because that building is owned by the government and it belongs to Public Works, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. Maybe you are dealing with the separate issue which appeared in the city press today, which is a separate matter where Treasury is being housed, and it is a separate matter.
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
On this one, yes. On this one, we are owning the building as the department, and we are going to fix it, and the Department of Police and the Minister will be housed there properly.
All right. Let's then talk about the symposium. It is the public-private partnerships. It's a 3-day event, and what is the aim, the ultimate aim, when this event has come and gone?
Yes, the primary objective is to ensure that we strike a partnership with the private sector that will ensure that the private sector participate in the built environment where we are constructing and in a property of government. We have a lot of properties that are not utilized, and we want those properties to be properly utilized and generate income for government. But we want also the private sector to invest in infrastructure projects going forward, because that has been lacking. The infrastructure has been the task of government and government alone. So we are inviting the private sector to partner with government in investing in infrastructure. The end on Tuesday, when we conclude, we will be presenting the construction book, which will be the first of its kind. It entails a lot of infrastructure projects that are ready for investors to invest in so that they'll be constructed. We will also present the top 12 projects that are quite packaged that will be implemented in the forthcoming year.
There is an entity, or perhaps you could call it an office. It's called the Infrastructure Fund, Minister. In your view, does that come into the equation at all in as far as this public-private partnership? And if so, how is it helping to work on projects quicker?
Infrastructure Fund help us to ensure that we execute blended finance for projects that needs both the government and the private sector. It then complements and ensure that there is that complementary approach We expect the private sector to invest on projects that are led by government, but project goes through various stages. The first would be that of project preparation, which entails feasibility studies, going through requirements, applications for EIAs and water use licenses and all of that. And then you go to execution. Then you need the partnership with the private sector, but in some cases, you need government to come in also with funding. And that's why we establish the infrastructure fund, which we believe will be very helpful. In other countries, we've got different forms. It can be sovereign fund and other forms in different countries.
Yeah. When government projects get off the ground, Minister, and that is if things do go well, and when they do, something along the line goes wrong, and red tape comes in and stalls the project for years on end. What is the solution to that logjam?
We have established Infrastructure South Africa as an entity within the department that seeks to ensure that once the project is conceptualized, we do project preparations, requirements, and funding, and then we monitor the implementation. So we've got institutional capacity to monitor the execution of all projects that we are leading as the department. But also a number of government projects are registered with Infrastructure South Africa so that we will monitor the implementation. We agree with you, but what we have done now, the mechanism that we have put in place are going to help us to ensure that there is no project that collapse or that get delayed in the process.
Final question to you. So I want to marry the conversation we started with this that we are currently talking about, which is the public-private partnerships when it comes to infrastructure build in South Africa. Government buildings, as we now know, on the back of the burning of the parliamentary building, they are not insured. What's being done to ensure that taxpayers' monies are used responsibly, particularly when a government building is either burned to ground for one or other reason, or there are buildings such as the Telkom Towers, the South African Police Service headquarters, that are simply in a state of dysfunction. What is the solution to these buildings being taken care of so that the taxpayer doesn't lose money either maintaining or building these properties anew?
No, thanks. The first is to look on whether it is possible to ensure that we secure and ensure that these we get some form of a policy that will help us to ensure the buildings. But going forward, the approach will be to ensure that, one, the maintenance is kept at a good level. Two, ensure that the security is also of a good standard. But three, ensure that we invest in getting policies that will ensure that government buildings are insured as well.
Sihle Zikalala, the Minister of Public Works, thank you very much for your time.